Alright, you lovely people. How you doing? I hope everything is fine after Thanksgiving. Let's talk about David Grusch. For some of you, probably you already know, David Grusch is this military person, a person that joined the military in the US. Actually, quite a high figure in terms of national securities or security or I don't want to say espionage, but anything that has to do with that type of stuff, right? So, as you can see, I don't know exactly how to call him. But what I'm interested in is the fact that he came forward as a whistleblower, trying through legal ways to bring an awareness to the public, both the US and around the world by default, right? Of the fact that we are already for a very long time in possession of artifacts that they're not from this planet, including biology, like biologies, literally remains of species or whatever, that they're not from here. Obviously, this type of affirmations are absolutely mind-bending because it really, first of all, gives all the people which they have that kind of, let's say, belief, right, in themselves, a little bit of relief that you go like, finally, I knew it. And, of course, the skeptic, they're still going to say whatever they're going to say. I'm cautious myself, but I honestly, listening to David Grusch telling us that there are probably in double digits number recoveries of UFOs, basically, of things which were not made by human beings on this planet. It's incredibly fascinating. And on the edge, right now, at the edge of whether or not we're gonna get this breakthrough with artificial intelligence, right? I don't even know what it could mean. In my, let's say, science fiction imagination, I wonder whether or not this mega computer will be able to create his own thoughts, or her thoughts, whatever you want to name it, and become sentient. And in become sentient, perhaps showcasing maybe a benevolent nature towards humanity, so that we could together perhaps progress where humans fail to either apply reasoning or research at that speed. So I have that hope and the feels that on the edge of that discovery or that moment in history, this intensity, or let's say like this bigger proliferation of news in regards of UFOs, that, let's face it, in the public eye, the majority of people, probably more than 50% around the globe, nowadays do believe that, whether because we've been exposed to science fiction for so long, so it's part of our imprint culturally, and also because of science and awareness of how big the universe is, supposedly, the more probably than 50% believe that there must be other forms of life out there in our galaxies and other places. So to see now, in conjunction with human advances in technology, this higher proliferation of, let's say, WAP or UFOs awareness, I find it to be quite interesting and significant. Whether like David Grusch is a psyop, like the hyper conspiratorial people like to see this, I have the sense that probably, whether it's for that or it's because somehow they have to find a way of literally trying out on people how this could work, a bigger release of information, or whether or not he's really like somebody that took it upon himself to try to go this route because, like he says, he feels like that it's basically moral to keep this away from human beings, and it just kept it shielded behind closed door in the end of a very tiny group of people that seem to take off on having more information than others. So, and that kind of this kind of awareness brings a little bit of hope, excitement, a little bit of fear, and you ask us a lot of questions. Like mine is in regards of like I would love to talk to people like David Grusch, and also about what it could mean if there are actually alien species right now living among us, whether or not we have only those artifacts or remains or dead remains of pilots from other planets, or whether or not actually they believe or they have information on perhaps those craft or species from other galaxies or other planets within our galaxies, what they're doing, right? Because the question is like, okay, those things exist, and those flight or those, let's say, craft also were left behind. You would assume that perhaps these people, these species, they would have a system advanced enough which they will be aware if they lost somebody on that blue planet somewhere, in that galaxy. And therefore I wonder if they made attempt of recovery, or they keep going back and forth. They're still visiting, they're among us. And after that you wonder, do they have any influence in our society? And if they do, my second question is like, my second realization is, well, maybe then it's not such a good thing that they have an influence, because looking at the humanity, it feels like that we're still very much behind in terms of everything, right? Simply expressing opinion is so controversial today, and also the way people embrace opinions and beliefs is still so incredibly complex that we are divided by still in 2023 by different religions, different cults, different beliefs, different political associations, and all of that seems to make the let's say blueprint of people, right? Identity. So I feel like, okay, if they have an influence, probably it's not that great. And my take is that probably I would prefer the idea or the theory that perhaps they are among us, but they choose to have a stance of observation. They observe and try not to interact or interfere, because probably they know better at this stage of our evolution to interfere with our affairs, that it's already so delicate and literally hanging always from a thread, it seems. So I like that theory more than anything else, than let's say malevolent species which they're playing with us, toiling with us, just for the sake of, I don't know, perhaps experimentation. Who knows? Maybe they're making such a huge experiment on, let's say, living creatures which they're a little bit more evolved than let's say the wild realm, nature in general large. So, but anyway, I mean, I'm absolutely fascinated by David Grusch, what he's saying. I just it gives you really that sense of also a little bit of frustration, because you really want to see more. I think we are all ready. The majority of people, it's ready to go like, okay, for fuck's sake, yes, they are there. Yes, they come. Yes, they gave us this, right? They give us evolution. He talks about one of the first recoveries in Magenta, northern Italy. It's actually close to Milan and Varese. This happened before the Second World War. So the Italians retrieved something. Seemed like also the church was involved, and then the Germans by default, because the Italians basically showcased what they had or shared what they had, also in order to find out what it was, or maybe they thought mistakenly, like Grusch says, that perhaps was one of German's aircraft, the new aircraft. So then you really go like, wow, in fact, all these theories will make absolute sense then. Those theories of already before Grusch that we all believed in, or that they were going around, of theories that we got our hands either on Roswell or whatever on artifacts of such a kind that basically through back engineering, right, allowed us to proliferate new technologies in our society. So that will make all sense, right? All the speculations, all the crazy foil ad people, not all of them, of course, but when it comes to, you know, alien remains and the type of incident like Roswell that people have tried to investigate and share in Area 51 and whatnot, and Bob Lazar, right? I mean, like many of you out there that follow this type of stuff, I knew about Bob Lazar because before even Joe Rogan was a thing, you know? I knew about Bob Lazar as soon as there were like videos available on the internet in the early 2000s that you went to fish whatever on LimeWire and whatnot. So I already knew also of all the older interview of Bob Lazar, which were circulating on the net at the time, you know? So I forgot the name. Interviews made by that now famous also Las Vegas journalist, I forgot his name, that is still covering this stuff, right? And I think he was the first one to bring us those things. Anyway, I just want to make this video. I'm excited, and I look forward to hear more from David Grusch. I really hope that we get a point where we really get a definitive answer, right? It could be so exciting to finally have the confirmation and to see that, you know, we are not just us left to our own means, to our own misery and petty arguments about who has to control which resources in order to maintain, you know, the hierarchies of power of the powerful, right? And instead, perhaps look at a near future where humanity could evolve in a spectacular way, in all the best possible ways that you can imagine science fiction, you know? Not the let's say Foundation or the, you know, the Star Wars Emperor kind of style, but more like really explorer of the universe, trying to grow from our own bestiality into something more, acknowledging the grandeur of everything that we don't know, and to help each other achieve the best versions of ourselves. So I know it's utopical sometimes, it's a little bit a utopia. It doesn't seem like that we might be able to get there without pain, but at least we could get there with a little bit more conscious mind, with a better mind, with a better approach, instead of squandering energy in such a detrimental way like we do here, you know? Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. I'll talk to you later. Ciao.